Hello friends, I miss you so much. Today I'm going to show you a project. It's how to make a giraffe, and our giraffe has a little bit of three-dimensional aspect to it. I'm going to show you how to draw the giraffe, but I'm going to give you some options of how to draw the ears differently than I did, or how to draw these little antlers differently, how to draw the eyes differently. So yours might not look the same as mine when you're finished, and that is definitely okay. I'm also going to show you some options for how to finish your giraffe. So this one I finished a little bit differently than the first one. This one is with crayons and paint, and this one is with magic markers. So we'll talk about that after we do our drawing. So let's get started with our drawing. For this project, you will need a plain piece of paper, just copy paper, a pencil, eventually you'll need a Sharpie, and an eraser. Okay, so this is our sloppy copy, and when you're all finished, you will want to transfer your drawing to a nicer piece of paper. If you can get some watercolor paper at Walmart, that would be great. Otherwise, you can use construction paper, but you can't really paint very well on construction paper. You can buy this kind of paper at Walmart. It's pretty cheap. It just comes in a pad, and it's in the art section. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is take your sloppy copy paper and fold it in half. Okay, so it's folded in half, and I'm actually going to fold it in half again on that line. Okay, so it's folded both ways. Okay, so that's your sloppy copy paper, and we're going to get started with drawing our giraffe. Now, we need to leave a little bit of space at the top of our giraffe so that we have space for these little antlers. So we're not going to start our line at the very top. We're going to start a little ways down, about a hand down. Okay, so on your sloppy copy paper, put your hand, you're going to go about a hand down, and that's where you're going to start drawing your curved line. And you're just going to draw a curved line like that, okay? And that's the top of the giraffe, that's his head. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to close that line with a U shape, okay? So depending on how big you want your giraffe's head to be, that's how big you're going to want to make your U shape. You don't want to make it too long all the way down to the bottom of your paper. You won't have very much room for his neck. And you don't want it to be too short, or you won't have enough room for his muzzle and his eyes, okay? So before you start drawing your line with your pencil, sometimes it's a good idea to trace it with your hand and make sure that your line is going just the way you want it to. And so I'm going to draw my U shape, and there's my giraffe's head, okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do are draw those two little knobs that are at the top of the head. And remember at the beginning of the video, I told you that I would give you some options about how to do things so that your giraffe did not necessarily have to look the same as mine. So you have some options for how to make those little knobs at the top. You could make this kind, which is just two straight lines with an oval on the top. Okay. You could make this kind, which is pretty much just curved lines like this, okay? Or you could make this kind, which is kind of fuzzy at the top. So you would just draw some lines like that, okay? So you can decide how you want to make your giraffe. Now, giraffes their faces are symmetrical. So if you look at this, the eyes are in about the same place, and the nostrils are in about the same place. It's not perfect, it's not exact, and that is a-okay. The ears are in about the same place. So I'm going to show you how you can make sure that that happens on yours. Now, if you're not worried about them being symmetrical, I'm not worried about them being symmetrical. So don't worry about it. If you want to just draw yours on, you can. Okay, so I'm going to make the curved little antlers like that. Okay, if I didn't worry about it being symmetrical, I would just draw another one over here. Okay, but I do want it to be symmetrical, so remember when we folded our paper, you're going to fold it in half, and you can see where you drew your line for that little knob. So you're just going to trace right over it, and when you open your paper, it will be on this side. Okay, So you can just, and you can change it a little bit if you want. Like I wanted it to be up. I wanted a little curve right there, so I changed it. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to draw our giraffe's ears. Now the ears are another place where you can decide how you want your giraffe to look. So I'm going to draw ears that are kind of curvy and they are going up. Okay, and then I'm going to draw the inside part. And I want those ears to be symmetrical, so I'm going to fold my paper in half, and I can see through my paper where my ears were. This is why you want to use just plain old copy paper, because it's easy to see through, and you can tell where your lines are. So it's easy to trace over them and get pretty much your exact line. If you don't, you can always fudge it a little bit. Okay, so I can see this, and I'll just go right over it like this. Okay. Okay. But if you didn't want ears that stick up like this, you could also choose to make your ears going down like this. Maybe he's a little bit sad, so you want to do that. That's totally your choice. Or maybe you want to do ears that go straight across like that. Okay, so if you're going to do the straight across ears, it's just a line that comes straight out and curves down, and then you do just a little inside line there to show the inside of the ear. So for your ears that go down, it's a curved line. It curves down and then up, and then to a point, and then down and back up. Your ear does not need to look exactly like mine. You can do yours however you want. That's why I'm giving you some choices. Okay, so the next step is let's draw the little muzzle in, and then we need to draw the eyes. So for the eyes, I have a little trick that I like to do, and I just like to draw circle eyes. There's one circle, there's another circle, and then there's my inside circle. Okay, and then I'm going to draw a little circle for the highlight, the reflection, where the light's reflected. All of this will be colored in with our Sharpie. Okay, and then that's the eye. So I want my eye, I do want my eye to be pretty symmetrical, so I'm going to fold my paper over, and I can see where my circles are. So I'm going to trace them. Again, it is not going to be perfect, and again, that is a-okay. The only thing I'm not tracing is the highlight, because I actually want the highlight to be in the same position. I don't want it to be over here. So I'm going to trace those circles that I made, and are they perfect? No, they are not, and is that okay? Yes, it is. And I want my highlight to be over there, okay? Then this will be colored in with our Sharpie. Okay, so choices for eyes. Let's see, and my paper's over here. I have some eye choices. Okay, so you could make, this would be the side of the giraffe's head, okay? So right below the ears. You could make a football-shaped eye, like this, with the iris and the pupil inside like that. This is kind of like the eye I made. It's just a circle, but there's a little eyelid on this one, and it's got the iris in there. And then this eye is just a straight line with like a smile line and then another line across. Okay, so another area you can see that you can make choices about your artwork is the eyelashes. So these are sort of curly ones that I like. There's some straight ones with little knobs on the top or something like this, whatever you want. Okay, you make it your own. Okay, I definitely like my little curly ones, so I'm going to go and make my little curly eyelashes. And I'm actually not going to worry about making those exactly symmetrical because I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, now it's time for our nostrils. So again, you have choices with your nostrils. I'm just going to make little bean shapes like this. Okay, but you can make your bean shapes go straight up and down like this. You can make them go inward like this, or you can make something like this, which is just sort of a spiral. So you could do that if you want that for your nostrils. Okay, the next step is our giraffe's neck. So I'm just going to draw a straight line. It comes kind of where the muzzle is. Another straight line, and that's it. So giraffes have spots, and you want some of your spots to look like they're coming from the side of the giraffe, and then you can make some of your spots that are in the middle. The spots are totally random, and you can decide how you want your spots to look. Okay? All right, that looks good. Okay, oh, and one other thing I forgot was his little mouth. So to make your giraffe's mouth, all you need to do is sort of draw a second line down by his muzzle there, okay? All right, so now our giraffe is drawn. The next thing that we want to do is we want to transfer this drawing. Once you're happy with it, you want to transfer it onto your good paper, okay? So what you need to do is turn your paper over, and you can see where your lines are, and you just need to color over those lines. I think we've done this before in class, so you know how to do this. And you don't need to cover the whole back of your paper. You only need to cover where your lines are. And these ones you don't even need to because they're already done. Okay, so you'll very quickly, I'm going as quick as I can because I'm sure you don't want to sit here and watch me do this. Okay. So you'll very quickly cover over the parts that you can see through. And in the places where I didn't fold it and trace it, I'm going to have to color over those. Okay, and then I can see where my neck is. So I'm going to color over that. And somebody's using the printer in my house. So that's kind of funny. I can hear that going. Okay. All right. So if you do this and it doesn't come out, you can't see your lines that you've traced, that means you just need to turn it back over and go over this area a little bit more carefully. Okay. All right. Then you get your good paper and put your giraffe on it, and then you are ready to trace your lines. Okay. So you'll just take your pencil and trace over all of those lines that you just drew on your giraffe. Now, while you're doing this, you can be thinking about how you want to color your giraffe. Do you want to use markers? Maybe you want to use paint. If you don't have paint, you can use crayons to color your giraffe. It's totally up to you. And then you can think about what colors you want to use. I did one giraffe that was sort of realistic colors, and then I did one that obviously is not realistic colors. I just did cool colors on that giraffe. So you can decide how you want your giraffe to look, and you can be thinking about that. And remember, it's your artwork. However you want to do it, that's the way to do it. Okay? All right, I'm just going to check and make sure this is coming through. Yep. Okay, so you can see that once you trace it, you'll have your whole giraffe. Now, once you have that finished, then you need to take your Sharpie and you're going to trace over all of your lines. Okay, so I would trace over all of those lines. And through the magic of video, obviously that stuff's already done. Once you finish that, you will have a giraffe that you are ready to color. Now, it will look, let's see if I can find one here that's ready to color. Here we go. We can use this one. Okay, so he's kind of halfway done, so maybe I won't use him. We'll use this one, okay, that we were originally working on. So let's pretend this is on our good paper. You can use markers. These are just regular old markers. Okay, so you can use markers if you want. Markers are what I used on this one. So that's what happens if you use markers. That's what it's going to look like. You can use crayons. I just used regular old Crayola crayons. And the one I used crayons on is this one. So if you like the way that looked, you want to use crayons. Now, after I colored this one with crayons, I did go over it with watercolor paint. So if you have watercolor paint at home, you can go over it, and then you know that the water color resist the crayons, but it will fill in any areas that you didn't get with your crayon. Okay, so if you left any areas white, it will turn the color that you watercolored it. Okay, all right, so let's talk about how we make the background. Once you've finished with coloring your giraffe, you're going to cut it out. And I think I have one here that I've already cut out. Yeah. Okay, so once you cut it out, then you have to decide what color paper you want to put it on. I'm going to put it on orange paper because we know that orange and blue are complementary colors, and so that will make my giraffe pop. But you can decide how, whatever color you want to use is just fine. Okay, so I wanted to make the background a little bit three-dimensional, so I cut some strips of paper, and when I cut my strips of paper, let me get some paper here. When I cut my strips of paper, I did not glue them all the way on. Okay, so I just took my paper, cut some strips. So I have a couple of strips, and I cut 2 different colors just so that they would contrast a little bit. Okay, and again, if you wanted whatever colors you want to use, that's just fine. So instead of just gluing them all the way down, I took my glue stick and I glued the tippy top, make sure you can see this, the tippy top of my paper, and I stuck one down, and then I kind of overlapped the other one and twisted them a little bit, and when I glued the bottom, I'm going to flip this over, and when I glued the bottom, I glued it up just a little bit so it sticks up. Okay, you can see that. So I'll move this down here. So I glued just the bottom and just made them stick up a little bit. Okay. And for the leaves, what I did was, you can draw leaf shapes, you can cut out whatever you want. I just cut out some leaf shapes, and of course I wanted them to have a little bit of variety, so I cut different sizes, and I glued one inside the other. Where did I put my glue stick? And I didn't glue them all the way on when I put them on the vine, so let me show you what I mean. So I'll glue this on the inside, and so when I put them on the vine, I just glued the very bottom of the leaf. Okay, so just the bottom, and then I stuck it on. So just the bottom, and stick it wherever you want it to go. Okay, and then I just took my pencil and I curled it around. In fact, you can curl it around before you glue it too if you want. It doesn't matter. Okay, and then it sticks up a little bit. Just adds a little bit of interest, a little bit of texture. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about gluing your giraffe on. Okay, so when I glue my giraffe on, I put lots of glue down here. Oh, Mrs. Jeffrey's texting me. I'll have to check it. Put lots of glue down here, but I didn't put any on the ears or the knobs at the top, and I'll show you why in just a sec. So lay your giraffe on. Okay, and I didn't put any on the ears so I could fold his ears up a little bit so that they could stick out, and I could fold those up and they could stick out. Okay, now the last step is you need a little mane, and you need to fill in the eyelashes. So for that, you are going to need your black Sharpie, which got lost on my desk, and again, you have choices for your mane. Well, let me do the eyelashes first. So I'm just going to continue the line that I already started. I hope this is in the camera. Okay, to finish my eyelashes, and always don't be afraid to turn your paper to make it work for you. Okay. All right, and now I need to decide on the mane. So here's another place where you can make choices and decide how you want your giraffe to look. I definitely have something here with different choices for manes. Now, manes are lines, and we know that lines are one of the elements of art, right? So you could do straight lines, You can do curly lines, you could do wavy lines, zigzag lines, lines with a dot, whatever you want, okay? So maybe for this one, I'll just do some straight lines like this. And you can vary the length of the lines to add a little bit of interest too, because I'm sure that every hair on the giraffe's mane is not the same exact length. Okay, and to finish this, you would probably want to put another vine over here on this side. Okay? All right, friends, so that is it. I'm going to think of something else to post sometime soon, and I miss you guys, and I hope you have lots of fun making your giraffes. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.